One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. Villanova Athletic Director Mark Jackson is on One Question today. We've got a trio of places to start with Mark, and who knows where the conversation goes. And inevitably, you're going to say something that piques my interest in asking a follow-up, Mark. But, Jay Wright's team is having another outstanding season. Last weekend's win, at the time of this recording, it was last weekend. The win over Virginia was a really compelling matchup. And, we commonly hear stories around the industry of a national championship having, I'm going to use this term, like a net residual positive on the rest of the programs in your portfolio. But it's not like Villanova men's basketball was off the radar. And that last year's national championship was a complete unexpected event. So have you heard from your head coaches that the national championship still has been a major boon for them on the recruiting side of things, or was the brand already national enough and had significant exposure that maybe that hasn't been the case, and it's just maybe helped grease the wheels a little more?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good question, and it certainly has had an impact. It's funny. I've only now been around Villanova for about 15 months, and when I first arrived, across our 24 sports, I think the impact of 1985's championship, was still being felt in a lot of ways. It brought so much notoriety to a relatively, small campus and department that there were still residual effects happening from that. I think that played a small part in the way people thought. And but then to see Jay do it in his own way, in his own style, I think brought a real sense of confidence to a lot of our head coaches in that, I can do this too. And Jay provides such a strong example, outside of the X's and O's and recruiting, about just leadership and understanding, the culture of Villanova and how to have success within that culture and vision that, and he's so accessible too. So our coaches have been around it and they've seen it, they've been up close and personal with it, and to finally see it all come together and culminate in a championship, I think, again, inspired a lot of confidence. We had Jay, we have our annual head coaches retreat, and I thought it was a no-brainer to have Jay come in and present, to just the question you're asking is, what does this championship mean to his program? What does it mean to our department? And kind of how did you get there, and how we're going to use this as a platform. And all of us, including myself, we couldn't get enough of it. Of course, Jay didn't want to do it and said, geez, these guys don't want to listen to me talk about it. But it inspired a day and a half of really, really good conversation and provided a springboard, into this year where I'm not sure you can see the tangible results, but certainly the underlying elements of confidence and energy and excitement, all those things have resonated across all 24 of our sports.
Do you do that retreat on campus somewhere, or do you take everybody off-site for a day and a half?
Yeah, we go off-site. And we're actually putting the works together for another retreat this year. And it's nice to know that we did have another national champion and Patrick Tiernan in our cross-country program, which is directly connected to Marcus O'Sullivan, who's a legend in the track and field profession. And we're very, very lucky to have him as our head coach. So he'll actually be keynoting this year's head coaches retreat to dive into his philosophy, and he's had long-standing success. So it's fun, and we bring in outside folks and do a lot of the same things I'm sure other departments do. But we always want to try and lean on somebody internally to kind of answer your question about, what does this mean? How do you make it work here specifically?
And then how do you choose the external folks to bring in? Is it subject matter specific or current events? What's your kind of criteria?
Both. A lot of it's current events, to take a hot topic, and we want to find the expert or somebody that's been impacted by it, and, proactively try and stay ahead of issues. We do have a sort of an informal internal committee made up of head coaches and administrators that we're constantly sharing ideas and people and names. And, I want it to always be engaging. I want it to be fun. At the same time, as much as we're trying to to learn our craft. I want it to be a time where we come together as a department, get to know each other better. We're often in our own little worlds and silos, and I think if you can build in some fun components around it as well, I think it goes a long way for the culture of your department. So in fact, we had conversations this morning about what the agenda looks like.
And I assume that's something Vince Nicastro was doing before you arrived. I assume it's something you've done or been a part of at USC. Probably even way back in your Oakland Raider days, there were retreats of this nature. But where else have you stolen ideas from to put kind of your stamp, or I hate to use the word best practice, but put best practices behind behind the event?
Yeah, I think a lot of the inspiration came from USC and Pat Hayden. Pat came from an outsider's world of private equity, and he had a lot of experience within companies and cultures and things that they had done differently. And he was always pushing me to go outside and talk to those folks, whether it was, like customer service at, the folks at Nordstrom's, or the fan experience and what they do at Disney, to the point where it was like, Pat is a member at Augusta, the way they pay attention to detail and all those different things. So, I think oftentimes we can get trapped inside the world of athletics, whether it's professionally or collegiately. I really like to step outside of that and try and bring folks in that have a different perspective. Last year, as part of that conversation, was really neat. I'm going to give them a plug here. We brought in the CEO of Advent, who was an environmental graphics firm that's doing a lot of business in college sports and professional sports for that matter. But their CEO is a guy named John Roberson, who's just a wonderful storyteller, and he knows how to tell a story really well, and he does it as a business. But that also plays into recruiting, it plays into fundraising, it plays into so many different fronts. Is how you tell your story. And he did a wonderful job in capturing, 24 head coaches and a bunch of senior staff folks. So that was a really good one. I'm trying to think outside the box right now for this upcoming retreat. I haven't gone. Maybe you, Matt. Maybe we'll bring you in for your perspective.
Yeah, that would be a really boring session. So let's go in a different direction.
And that's today's one question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.